Good morning, people. This is State of Mind with me, Richard Sefton. It's that time of week again. Chill out, unwind, grab a cuppa and let's get talking. Talking, chatting, nattering, gabbing, it doesn't matter what you call it, it helps. I've got a nice big mug of coffee in front of me this morning and I'm ready to listen. If you want to join in, I'm on Twitter at RichardSefton3. Come join me.
Well, what a treat I have for you today. My guest is normally heard in the afternoon between 2 and 5 on Radio 2's Big Show. This wonderful person has sung backing vocals for Boy George, Kim Wilde, toured the world with Wham, and had hits in her own right in early 90s Dance at Cola Boy. Author, natural wellbeing expert, speaker, fellow podcaster, mum, owner of an infectious laugh, I am really joyous in welcoming Janey Lee Grace to my sofa. How are you, Janey?
Hi, yeah, great, thanks. Lovely to chat.
Absolutely right. One of my big dreams, what I said in the intro, is you being a backing singer. Absolutely one of the things that I wanted to do as a child. Can we talk about the backing singing years for a minute?
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
yeah,
those names.
Yeah. I know. It seems so odd when I look back now, but yeah, I remember just really hustling. Getting the Wham gig was a really interesting one because they were obviously just had their first hit. And wanted to put a tour together. And I was already doing backing singing with various kind of setups for various bands. But I really wanted to get this gig, obviously.
Yeah.
And I heard the tour. I got in touch with the tour manager who said they're auditioning. But what they really wanted, he said, was a setup, so a vocal, a backing group that were already a unit, as it were. So at the time, there were a few of those around, those kind of singers. It was often two guys and a girl, or two girls and one guy, whatever. And one of the setups that were going for the gig were called Kokomo. I mean, you won't remember them, they're too young, but they had hits and everything, this kind of little setup. But they were also doing backing vocals. Yeah. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to compete against them. So anyway, I go along on my own, and it was really, it was great. I sort of met George and Andy just very, very briefly, but then worked with the kind of MD guy called Tommy, and he said to me, look, he said, we're auditioning a whole bunch of backing singers, but if you were part of a unit, that would probably help. So I thought, oh goodness. So I came away and rang two friends. One was G Bello, who was in a band called Light of the World, and I'd met him on a session. I'd only met him once. Yeah. And then my friend, who I'd done various bits and bobs with, Janet. So I rang them and I said, look, could we pretend we're a unit? Could we just kind of rock up and make it sound like we've sung together lots of times? They said, yeah, why not? So we literally rehearsed by phone and then rocked up and said that we were a unit. We gave ourselves a name and said, well, we're a unit. We always work together. And we got the gig. It's like, wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
So where were Pepsi and Shirley at this point?
Well, they were always part of it, but they were the dancers who would come out front and dance. I mean, of course, later they had their own career as singers, which was fantastic. But in terms of the Wham tours, they were the dancers, and they got to wear all the fabulous clothes, while we got to wear the same clothes as the guys in the band. That was never fair.
Do you know? Oh my God, it just sounds so amazing. And you toured with them for a year, did you?
Well, it was about 3 years. It was all their tours. We did the UK a couple of times, and the States a few times. All the big venues, and then of course China. That was the most amazing experience. I mean, really amazing. Sometimes I look back and I think, God, did I actually dream that? If that movie wasn't out there, there's the movie Wham in China.
Yeah.
I would barely believe it happened, because it was, before all of the changes in China. Like, first time around, all of the changes. It's just bizarre when you think about it. It was kind of, what was it, 1981 or 82? Incredible.
That was the year I was born.
There you go, you see.
Sorry. Just, you spark that.
Dates me.
Oh, come off it. You look nowhere near. You must have been about 2 touring with them.
Oh, I wish.
So you must have been really close then with the lads, with George and Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the early years, they were very much kind of part of the gang. We were all kind of travelling together. As they got, super mega famous, they kind of probably had their own flash cars and we went on the tour bus, but that's okay.
Yeah, still met them up on stage. So I'm guessing working on Radio 2, because you've been there a long time, haven't you?
I have, yeah. It's scary, actually. It's 21 years practically.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I know.
So I've been listening to you all of that time. But you must have seen these people that you knew from, say, the early 80s. You must have seen them quite a lot then.
What you mean, kind of coming in as guests on the show? And
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funnily enough, we were interviewing Tracy from Everything But the Girl the other day, and I was remembering that although I was always a massive fan of that band, I'd never got to meet her before. So
Really?
yeah, there's been some people that obviously come in on the show and I'd sort of known them from my touring days, and then others who I'd never met before. But yeah, I mean, I have probably met an awful lot of celebs now when I think about it, although less in the last year, of course, because we've been doing everything from home.
That must be so weird. How have you coped?
Well, you just have to get on with it, don't you? I can't say I've enjoyed it. I hate all the tech stuff, but and it's just so difficult when you're trying to interview someone and there's sort of 3 or 4 of you and you don't know who's going to speak, and there ends up with loads of crosstalk, and it's oh god, wish we could just meet up, really.
So when was the last time you were in the studio all together then?
Oh, well, last March.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, God, that must be really strange. Like after
is,
so many
yeah.
years of being knowing each other's body language and stuff, and okay, it looks
Yes,
like Tim's going to
exactly.
speak now, and that's a totally different way of working.
It is. It really is a different way of working. I mean, we've just about pulled it out of the bag, I think, but it is tough.
Yeah. You've kept people coming back for more. So I mean, I don't want to talk too much about this, but George Michael's death, that must have affected you, hit you hard, knowing him.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously I hadn't seen him for a good few years, but yeah, when I got, somebody rang me from Radio 2 and actually said, would you speak on air a little bit about working with George. And so I did, and so for a few hours on that day I was sort of busy doing radio interviews, and I don't think it sank in for a while. And when I looking back at that, what's just so unbelievably sad is that someone in his position, with I mean literally everything,
Yeah.
didn't get the help that he needed. I find it just absolutely incredulous that he, I don't know, it's really heartbreaking that the right people weren't around to, I don't know, maybe even force him to deal with whatever was going on, because there was obviously a lot going on with George, and and he wasn't well in those last years. It's heartbreaking, really heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, but then you say that the right people weren't around. There's sadly a long list of, Amy Winehouse,
I know,
Michael Jackson, people where the right people weren't around them at the right time.
I know.
And yet they had everything else.
Well, yeah, that's right. But then of course, then it's easy to kind of, you might think to yourself, well, I wonder if I'd have been close to him then. I wonder if I could have made a difference. And I guess there must be so many people feeling that way. Actually, the reality is probably none of us could have made a difference. I'm not answering this question at all. I'm just ruminating, really. But it is, it's absolutely heartbreaking that people just kind of, I don't know, just have to die young. It really is.
Have you always been in touch with that sort of side of things, your own state of mind, other people's state of mind?
Well, I think, for me, what happened was around it. No, it took a while, really. I think I was always really very sensitive, extremely sensitive, in those days when I was sort of singing and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it was probably not till, if I had to put a date on it, probably be early 90s when I started to get really interested in optimum health and well-being. So for me, it started with looking at my diet and what I was physically kind of putting into my body, and I went on a bit of a health kick, and it was only then that everything kind of fell into place and clicked, and I suddenly realised that actually you have to look at the holistic picture. It's no good just looking at whether you're eating superfoods or not. You've really got to look at what's going on in your head as well. So I think that was when I started on my journey of sort of personal development and spirituality and all of that stuff, and then I kind of got on quite a steep learning curve and threw myself into all of that, really.
You did, and you trained, didn't you, in NLP and
that was more recently. I've trained in NLP, and I've been an EFT practitioner for about 6-7 years, and then more recently I've trained in NLP since I've been doing the kind of coaching and the work that I do now.
It's exciting. You've got a new book out, haven't you? Happy, Healthy, Sober.
Yeah, the book came about because I mentioned that I've been kind of doing healthy living stuff for years, and I've written 4 books on the topic, actually. And that's always been what I'm kind of known for, is that holistic approach to everything. I mean, I've spoken a lot about it on the radio. The boys are always kind of taking the mickey out of me because I'm talking about eco balls and coconut oil and goodness knows what, and they all laugh and kind of fade the mic down, but it's all in good fun. And that's kind of how the first books came about, really. And then I run my Platinum Awards, which recognise the best in natural products, and I've been doing all of that stuff for a good sort of 16-17 years, but all of that time, I was walking around this massive, great big elephant in the room, which was alcohol. I was allegedly kind of queen of natural living and really, really caring about not putting any chemicals in my body, not washing my clothes with chemicals. I mean, everything. But there I was boozing every goddamn night. So, it was just such a wake-up call when I finally got it. And I've been sober 3 and a bit years. And so I host a podcast, as you say, and I gave a TEDx talk. And now I've got the book out. And I mean, I really want the book to be, it's really not just, oh, you should give up alcohol. Far from it. I'm totally non-judgmental. And the question I try and encourage people to ask is, could my life be better physically and emotionally without the booze? And that's really what I want to kind of encourage people to, all the other bits of health and well-being. It's not just ditching the booze. It's a great place to start, but it's all the other bits, really. And certainly the mindset piece is huge. I mean, the link between alcohol and anxiety just cannot be denied.
Because there's certain in inverted commas social norms that you kind of have to, and just looking through your Twitter feed, actually you see a lot of them, wine o'clock and things like that, and things that you're supposed to do. When I tell people that I don't drink, they automatically assume that I'm a recovering alcoholic, which is fine. They can assume that if they want, but I'm not. It was medication reasons that I gave up in 2016. I never was a massive drinker anyway, but waking up on a Sunday morning and feeling fresh and seeing Facebook statuses from people, oh, I'm never drinking again, but in a jokey way. It's kind of society's way of dealing with it is to deal with it through jokes. Yeah. And it seems really different to other things.
Yeah, it absolutely. It's the social kind of glue that sticks everything together. And, and you're right, we glamorise alcohol in this country, and we think it's just hilarious and highly amusing, and you're not seen to have had a good night out unless you're drunk. I mean, actually, when the scales come off and you see it for what it is, you realise how sad all of that is, really. And I've literally only got one regret, and that is just that I just didn't do this sooner. I was literally blind to it all. I really was, and most people are. Because here's the thing, nobody in all the years, even when I started to kind of think, oh God, something isn't right, I'm kind of feeling really energyless and something's not quite right. I didn't ever have a rock bottom moment, by the way. I think it's really important to stress that. I think it's this area of what we call grey area drinking that we need to raise more awareness about, because the majority of people aren't clinically dependent. They aren't at rock bottom needing alcohol services. They're just the way I was. They're just drinking too much too often and actually hating themselves for it. So they are caught in a kind of trap. They're not free. But when I first started to kind of voice this, for ages I was in denial. And when I first started to voice it, if I went to see a therapist sometimes I have, things like energy healing and stuff because of the work I do. I used to get a chance to sample lots of great treatments. And, I might just say to the practitioner, something, I'm worried about my drinking because, I'm drinking kind of every day. And in every case, they would just say, well, sounds normal. You're just like me. And yeah, it sounds normal. So, just have one day where you don't have any alcohol. It used to drive me insane. And so I would then sort of come away. That gave me license to carry on. Yeah. But actually, I now know that I just needed somebody to say to me, oh, sweetheart, I've got the best suggestion for you. Oh, my God, you are going to so love this. Stop drinking. Nobody ever told me how freaking fantastic life is without the booze,
Yeah, it's so strange. Sometimes it does just take one person to say something that's very obvious and very, just right there in your face, and it can change everything.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm just trying to kind of, in a non-judgmental way, spread that message, because there would be people who've never heard it before, just like I hadn't. I had no idea that there were people who chose to ditch the booze, and it was the best decision they'd ever made. My perception, so 4 years ago, would have been that I was going to be completely miserable without drink in my life. How was I ever going to be able to function or be happy or be fun anymore? But literally the opposite is true.
I think a bigger barrier to break down is other people's perceptions. The amount of times that I get that when I tell people that I don't drink, oh, you're the miserable one then.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
really not the miserable one.
No, and that anagram, sober anagram of bores, it's completely not true. And also, you're right. It's usually the people who've been drinking that are, the maudlin ones, because alcohol is a depressant. Yeah. And yes, they might seem like they're the happy ones at the start of the night, but ask them the next morning when they're hungover, who's the happy one? Certainly, I had no concept of that kind of. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but kind of inner peace, if you like, that kind of sense of contentment. I didn't know what that meant. I honestly didn't know what that meant. And even though I was doing all of this work around spirituality, and I was Hay House author, and I was interviewing, lots of mindfulness gurus and all the rest of it. If you'd have actually asked me about my personal experience, I would have just said, oh, it doesn't apply to me. And the reason is because I was pouring booze on my head all the time. And of course I couldn't actually be authentic. Of course I couldn't sit in meditation or really, really tap into that kind of proper mindfulness, because I was always planning the next drink.
I've got friends, and I've lost friends through drink, and I've had friends that have had alcohol dependency, and I could never get it. I could never understand that addiction. Like you say, you're talking about the grey area, but I could never understand that addiction. So I actually took up smoking just to understand addiction. Now I understand addiction. I mean, I don't smoke anymore, but and it's a very strange way of trying to understand addiction. I understand that. This was years ago. But yeah, that grey area down the middle isn't addressed. It's just not addressed. It's the norm to Friday night, Saturday, and you see it on, like I say, on Facebook, on Twitter. Oh, it's Friday night, it's beer o'clock. It's Friday night, it's wine o'clock, and all of those things. And it does change. I mean, it changed my life when I stopped drinking, and I didn't drink that much, but it changed my life. Sunday mornings were bright again. And, for me, it was a Saturday night. I'd have a few drinks. And every Sunday morning was gloomy and grey. Even if the sun was shining, it was gloomy and grey. It's not anymore.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, really, there is this, as that, I know I should be plugging my own book, but, that fantastic book by Catherine Gray. Catherine Gray's book says, it's titled The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober. And that is just the best title because, it really is an unexpected joy. I had no idea. I genuinely thought, well, how am I going to navigate life without booze? Where will I go? What will I do? Will I ever be able to be fun again? And you are right. The reaction of others is a big one. It can be the reason that people take so long to stop because they're so fearful of what others are going to say. Coming out of lockdown, there are people who ditch the booze. Some of my people in my sober club community have ditched the booze during lockdown. So they're actually really nervous now of getting back out into the big wide world and doing any kind of socialising without a drink. So that, you know, my advice to them and to anyone who's kind of concerned about that is do your prep. Don't just rock up to anything. Actually do your prep. You know, let your friends know ahead of time, or text or email or whatever you do, and just give them a heads up that you're not drinking. You can fib if you want to, or you can tell the truth. Who cares? You know, or drive home, whatever. But let them know, because otherwise you find yourself at the bar. Yeah, you find yourself standing at the bar or sitting in someone's garden. They hand you the drink you always have, and before you know it, you're off on a roll. So you've got to give someone a heads up, but walk a fine line between letting people know and sharing everything you've ever experienced with them. Because I actually think in the early days and weeks, you shouldn't share too much of this with close friends and family, because they haven't necessarily been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and they don't know what's going on for you. So just share the bits you need to share.
Mm-hmm. Your journey is your journey. I also think a big part of it is learning the drinks that you do like and going prepared in that way, because a big thing is walking up to a bar and there's no choice other than a Coke or a lemonade.
Yeah, well, I mean, fortunately that is changing, and one of my big mantras is keep the ritual, change the ingredients. So absolutely always have a lovely glass. You know, it really annoys me that glasses have to be named after the goddamn liquid that goes in them. You know, why is it called a wine glass, for God's sake? But anyway, ask for one, or a highball, or whatever it is you want, and again, prep ahead. So if you're going to a bar or a restaurant, ring them just as you would if you were vegan. You would ring ahead and ask, you know, you'd say, here's my dietary requirements, you know, what have you got? And do exactly the same. Ring ahead and ask what really great alcohol-free drinks they've got. And if their answer is, well, we've got Coke or an orange juice, then you need to say, okay, well, you won't mind me bringing my own then, will you? And they can charge you corkage for a soft drink. So go armed with your own alcohol-free drinks. If you're going to a friend's, always take fantastic alcohol-free drinks, because the choice is massive. And I mean, the good news is pubs and bars are getting better. It's events and kind of hospitality venues that are you know, struggling to keep up. But most bars and even some restaurants are starting to get onto it now.
Yeah, going back 20 years, it was all, do you want red, white or water? If you were like sat down at an event or something, you know, that was it. Okay, water,
well, it kind of is a bit like that at events. I remember when I first ditched the booze, I went to I was at a couple of health and wellbeing events, an awards ceremony and another big health event, and I was just absolutely freaked out that of course I hadn't done my prep. I didn't know all the stuff I know now, and I hadn't really told anyone. And there we were at this natural health event, and the only drinks on offer were, as you say, red or white, or I think there might have been a beer. I mean, there wasn't even the obligatory warm orange juice for the non-drinkers.
Wow.
You know, but I remember thinking to myself, well, okay, I'll cope with this. But imagine if I'd brought along some celeb friends with me. You know, imagine if I'd come in with Zoe Ball and Russell Brand and Elton John. Are they going to offer them a goddamn warm orange juice, you know? Because they don't drink either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's strange. Yeah, like you say, if you equate it to something like veganism, there would be more of an uproar.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's my options?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's changing. So, I mean, the rise in the alcohol-free drinks market is just massive, as you know. I mean, and some of the kind of big producers, the artisan producers, are doing brilliantly. But even some of the big producers are finding that their 0% options are far outselling their beers and stuff. It's amazing.
Well, do you know what I find funny? If I have a Copperberg, non-alcohol Copperberg, I think it's Copperberg that do the non-alcoholic, but the fruity ciders anyway. If I have one of those and it's non-alcohol, and I have one of those that is alcohol, they taste exactly the same, but I prefer the one with no alcohol. Yeah. It feels nicer. I can drink it quicker.
I mean, I don't drink beer, but a lot of people tell me that the alcohol-free beers, some of the kind of you know, the big brands, the Heineken, the Stella, they all do 0% versions, and they say they're really good.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times that I hear people saying, "Oh, there's no point in drinking unless you're getting drunk," and I just think, no, that's not. You know, it's nice to have a nice fruity drink in the sun. outside a pub if you need to with friends.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point you raise, because actually the sunshine is a real big trigger for people to drink. I've had sober club members who said, oh, God, it was really, really a panic for me when the sun came out the other day. You get the wine witch in your ear telling you, go on, the sun's out, you deserve it, just have a nice drink. And of course, you have to, at that point, pause and ask yourself, well, what is it I really want right now? Because it sure as hell isn't alcohol. We drink alcohol because of the feeling we believe it gives to us, whether that's because we want to feel relaxed or chilled or grown up or happy or confident or sexy or whatever the hell it is we think we want. We think alcohol gives it to us. And all of our associations over years and years support that.
So I was going to say, association is a big...
Exactly. So we have to turn it all around and recognise that if it's a lovely sunny day, yes, you may want to sit outside a pub with friends. Yes, you want a nice cold glass of something. But why would you want it to be toxic liquid? Because, I sometimes say to clients I work with, when they say they've had a really busy day or they're exhausted or they're stressed and they really need, in inverted commas, they really desire a drink. And then I'll say to them, okay, well, let's imagine you've got in from work then or whatever and you're exhausted and let's say your drink of choice is, white wine. Supposing, I said to you, okay, well, yeah, hold on a minute, I'll get some for you. And then I come back and say, oh, I've only got this old stuff that's been in the garage for a few years. It's a sweet one, but it'll be okay. It's not cold, but don't worry. And my glasses are all packed away, but don't worry because I've got this cracked paper cup. It'll be all right. I mean, suddenly it doesn't seem so appealing, does it? Because it wasn't actually the alcohol they wanted at all. It was everything that came with it, the associations of the lovely cold glass and the chilled drink, and it wasn't the alcohol. And that's why I think we have to just learn to retrain our thoughts.
At the start of what you were just saying, you said about what we get from alcohol, like feeling sexy or feeling confident or feeling like the life and soul of the party. Do you think, are you quite a confident, have you always been quite a confident person?
Yes, in certain ways. I mean, I've trained myself to be confident on the outside, as it were. That doesn't mean that I'm, not also quite sensitive. And it's quite interesting because a lot of people find that once they stop drinking, they aren't the extrovert they thought they were. They're really quite introverted. That's been an eye-opener for some of my sober club members, because they were thinking, oh my God, how am I ever going to dance on tables at parties? How am I going to be the person that I am? And then they're sober for a few months. They go, do you know what? I love sitting reading a book or doing my knitting or whatever. But that's not to say that you become, necessarily very insular. Loads of my sober club members have done the most incredible things since they've ditched the booze. It's amazing how when you get your mojo back, you do gain confidence. You gain actual authentic kind of confidence in who you really are. And that's when people start to find, do you know what? I want to change career. I want to start a business. I want to write a book. I want to run a charity. I want to travel. I want to, start running. So many different things that amazing hobbies people take up. And it's super exciting because they find they have so much time on their hands and suddenly they have this new sense of energy and a kind of a authenticity really as to who they really are.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I'm still the person that dances on the tabletop.
Yeah, perfect. That's great.
But then I used to say to people, there's no point in me drinking. I'll still be the first one up on karaoke. I'll still be the first one up on the dance floor. So why do I need to feel ill in the morning? And Brilliant. I never enjoyed the taste much anyway.
Exactly. Perfect.
Other than a Kappaberg. Like I say, I hope they sponsor me for this after this.
As long as it's not a Corona, right?
Oh, good God, no, never again. I wonder if their shares have gone down.
I'm guessing they have, sadly.
So what made you, obviously you did the book and everything, that's out this year. When did you start the podcast?
I started the podcast. The podcast is 2 years old.
Whereabouts are you from, by the way? Originally, from Nottingham.
Yeah, Nottingham, yeah.
Because you said podcast instead of... You, I know I said it. I was wondering if you just mimicked me or you actually would have normally said podcast.
No, I'm from Nottingham. Where are you from?
I live in North Wales. I lived in London for a long time, so I've got a bit of a Mongol accent.
Wales is gorgeous. I started the podcast after I'd been sober for a year. So yeah, it's been going. It's been going just over 2 years. I mean, I'm really lucky. I've had some just amazing guests on there, and I really, I mean, because podcasts are what kept me inspired really in those early weeks. That's why I wanted to start one, and I thought, well, I'm really lucky that I've got access to some great experts and great authors. So let's give it a go. And it's, as you know, it's a bit of a labour of love.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's new. It's kind of new to me. I think you are my episode 7.
Oh, cool.
So it's new to me, but it's so much fun to do, and I get to chat to the most wonderful people and find out different states of mind from different people, like politicians, musicians, radio, talk radio DJs, that sort of thing, and then your good self.
Yeah.
All different.
No, it is.
Yeah.
I think there's something lovely about just being able to tune into a podcast when you go for a walk or a drive or whatever it might be, and I think when you're in the early stages of making any kind of behaviour change, I think it's just a great way to get inspired and hear from people who've kind of been there and done it. Really,
I'll tell you what's been interesting. All of the different ways that people look after their mental health. And I mean, my podcast is about talking, and it's about just having a good chat with somebody can help you. So, if you want to chat, go and chat. If you're in a position to listen. But the things that my guests have said to me, like even the healthy eating and the non-alcohol that we've talked about, but then other things that people have said about how they look after and nurture their mental health, and it's so different, and yet it works for them, and I think it's kind of beautiful to listen to.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important that everyone finds what works for them. Of course, I do think that the connection piece is really important. To even if you don't have a group of friends that you meet physically, even if you don't meet people online, just being connected. As you say, through a conversation, even through listening to a podcast, where you get that sense that someone else has had that there's that shared experience. Because I think it's when you feel like you're on your own, that's when it's scary. That's when it's really scary. And I know for a fact that certainly 4 years ago, as I've already said, I didn't know anyone else who had the issue, in inverted commas, that I had. Now I now know that grey area drinking affects millions. It's just that no one was talking about it, because we have this perception that there are 2 types of drinker in the UK. Those at rock bottom, as we've already said, who need rehab, and then there's everyone else, and they're just happy social drinkers, and they don't have any kind of, in inverted commas, problem other than can't hold their beer sometimes. But that's not the reality. There are millions and millions and millions of grey area drinkers who actually don't want to be in this trap. They just don't know that there's a way out, and they feel so much shame. And for me, that was the place I was at. So I had no idea that there was anyone else feeling this way. So it was listening to podcasts and getting connected with other people who literally had the same experience that opened up the whole world for me.
It must be, I would imagine, extra hard in the circles that you were in, the work that you were in, for people like you, and you mentioned some of your colleagues before, to kind of break away from the social norm that we were talking about, in that world where it's almost, well, from an outsider looking in, it looks like it's almost pushed on you. You have to have a glass in your hand at every do.
I know what you mean. Other people have sort of said this about the media, all the boozing in the media, and you're right. It is available all the time, and certainly back in the day, I remember I used to show on Virgin Radio, and I'd regularly kind of go and have a bottle of wine, share a bottle of wine with dinner before I went and did my late night show. It was very much the norm, and we were even in the pub at lunchtimes, in the early days. And then if you go to functions, there was always free booze absolutely everywhere. So you're right, it's very much part of it. And when we were touring, of course, there's always booze in the dressing room. But having said all of that, I've since realised that alcohol is rife in pretty much every industry. I did my TEDx talk, and it was the guys who run it were part of Norwich University, and they were telling me that within the teaching profession, lecturers, oh my God, there are issues with alcohol. hear people talk about the medical profession and the issues with alcohol. So I actually don't think it's confined to the media. It's just that we often get it free.
Actually, yeah, and because you're in the media, that's the people that we see.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So what is your podcast called then?
My podcast is Alcohol Free Life.
And how can people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you? Are they able to?
Yeah, just sure, of course. I mean, I'm on social media at Janey Lee Grace, and if you go to thesoberclub.com, there's loads of stuff there, blog posts, competitions to win great alcohol-free drinks, and there's a link to all the podcasts there as well. So yeah, loads of stuff at thesoberclub.com.
I got to say, I saw one of your tweets and it made me laugh, talking about alcohol-free drinks. I think your tweet, you just said something like, have a grape instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
Well, there was a piece in the paper this week, I don't know if you saw it in the news, that was talking about how this study said that people who drink red wine have less likelihood of needing cataract surgery, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, literally, I just shout total BS at that. Yeah. It's absolute BS. I just don't know where they get this nonsense from. But that's the kind of article that would have kept me stuck. Because I'd have read that. Of course, I wouldn't have bothered to read the small print where it does say under 14 units and they don't know that it's a causal effect. It might be, all that nonsense. I would have not bothered to read that bit. I would have just seen that as a license to carry on. It's nonsense. Alcohol is literally the number one most harmful goddamn drug when you take into account everything. Yeah. And it's a depressant and it's super bad for you. And yes, if you want the antioxidant polyphenol effects, then have a grape.
And grapes are beautiful anyway. I used to get told when I was younger, when I say younger, I mean like early 20s, you'll develop a taste for wine. Just keep drinking it. And I was like, it's horrible. I never ever developed the taste.
Yeah, why would you? Why would we want to force people to develop a taste for toxic fermented liquid? It's just weird.
It is so strange, isn't it? So when did you start on the health kick then, did you say? In the early 90s?
Yeah, that would have been early 90s when it kind of dawned on me that, I might not be living forever and I might want to think about, what I was eating and just becoming a bit healthier, really. So, yeah, okay. that was when I kind of got into, good food and what was going on in my head. And then a little bit later, around about 98 or 97, when I was pregnant with my first child, that's when I got into all the kind of chemical-free stuff and started to really care about, skincare without chemicals and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and because I need as many tips as possible to stay feeling looking young. So the alcohol's gone, the meat is on its way out. Apparently today I've got to give up fish because there's a horrible new documentary on on Netflix.
Seaspiracy. Yeah,
Seaspiracy. My empathy valve is completely open, and if I watch that, it would possibly I don't know, it would have a very bad effect on me. So I'm thinking I may just try and give up fish without watching it. Because I can't, my brain can't deal with that much pain. It's knowing my limits, really. If there was a thing on, I think it was Netflix years ago, called Okja, about pig, this fantasy animal, like a giant pig, and my partner watched it and said, I'm not touching meat ever again. And I thought, no, I can't watch it. If that's had that effect on him, there's no way that I will be able to watch it. So know my limits. So I don't know if I'll watch that documentary, but I will certainly act upon it.
Yeah, I think all of us have got to. There's so much to weigh up, isn't there? And I do think it's that kind of small change, big difference approach. Yeah. We all have to do the bits that work for us health-wise. I actually don't believe that one size fits all when it comes to sort of diet and food. I really don't. I think, there's been studies done. I'm sure you've heard of John Robbins, who did the I've forgotten what the book was called. Healthy at 100, I think it was.
I was thinking of Tim Robbins. That's a different person.
All right,
isn't it?
no, it's a different person. Yeah, it's a very old book now, really, really old. But he studied cultures all around the world, and he's a kind of an anthropologist, really. And as did Weston A. Price. That's another very old name that it is a very interesting one to watch, because both these guys studied cultures around the world, and they looked at people who were incredibly healthy and had got to 100 or even more. And what you would have expected them to have found was that they there was a commonality. They all ate the same foods, and that's what meant they lived to 100. But actually, the diets were totally 100% varied.
Really?
I mean, some ate only fruit, some ate only meat, some ate, a whole. I mean, it was shocking, actually. It was very surprising. But there were some things that they all had in common, and that was pretty much no processed crap. And this is really important, an amazing sense of community around them. A lot of kind of family and younger people. They were part of a community. They were respected. Wow. They were all respected.
That just sounds lovely anyway, doesn't it? Yeah. You've got 4 children, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
And I thought you were going to think about that.
No, I was just choking. Thinking.
Have I?
Oh God, yeah.
Haven't I got? No, it's 4. And you've collaborated on a few books about pregnancy and
yes, I have. Yeah. Well, I wrote Imperfectly Natural Baby and Toddler. Goodness knows, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, 14 years ago, and then I did some audio. Hypnosis audios with Glenn Harrold, who's a leading hypnosis audio author, and we did some hypnosis audios for pregnancy and birth, as kind of natural pregnancy and natural birth. So yeah, that was really good fun doing those.
So I'm guessing being a mum is something else that changed your life completely.
Oh yeah, completely. And I never intended to have any children. I was just very much kind of rock and roller and, busy. I genuinely did not intend to have children. So I feel incredibly blessed that, I've ended up with 4, really.
That's quite... Did you never want children, or you just didn't think that you'd have them?
No, I didn't really want children. No, I didn't. I definitely didn't. I didn't have... I mean, this is what I think is just bizarre, really, when I look back. I didn't have a biological clock ticking. I didn't think that would be my path at all. And so, when I first got pregnant, I was having all these kind of issues, and they thought it was an ovarian cyst. And
oh God, how scary!
Yeah, I know, it was just bizarre. And I literally had this scan, thinking that I had an ovarian cyst, and thinking, oh my God, I've never been ill, and what the hell is this? And it was a baby. and as soon as I found out it was a baby, of course, it was like I wanted it more than anything.
Oh, really? Instantly that changed?
Instantly. So, and then and then I got on my kind of steep learning curve, and yeah, and because obviously I wanted to do it all naturally, so I did.
So your eldest is called Cyst. See, what you did it completely naturally.
Oh yeah, I've had 4 natural births. That was super important to me. I threw money at it every time, and just got the best. I didn't have any holidays for a lot of years. I just threw money at having, really good natural pregnancies and natural births.
And 4 down the line. Wow.
Yeah.
So you were just the rock and roll that you say. I've got to say, the video for 7 Ways to Love is like watching an episode of Absolutely Fabulous.
Do you know what? That
so
was
90s.
I mean, talk about thrown together. Oh my God, you can tell. I mean, it only cost...
It's brilliant.
It only cost a few quid, and it was literally thrown together. It was so funny. It was fun, though.
I bet it was. No, it looks it. It really does look it. But honestly, I watched it and I was thinking, what does this remind me of? And when they did like the cutaways on Absolutely Fabulous, and they went to them being in the 70s, so that's what it reminded me of, the cutaways on Absolutely Fabulous.
Yeah, so that's what we wanted to go for, yeah.
Right, this is, I'm talking to you, Janey Lee Grace, but I have to ask about Radio 2 and working with Steve. Right, what's it like?
Yeah, it's great fun. I mean, I've been doing it for so many years now. It's bonkers, isn't it, really? But we do have great fun. I sometimes wonder if it'd be so great if we could actually air the bits between the stuff you don't hear.
That would make a brilliant podcast.
Yeah, because of course we have a great laugh. Yeah, we're really
plus.
lucky. We've had amazing guests as well, of course, so that really helps.
Well, you do have amazing guests. My favourite people, I mean, obviously I miss the old woman. And Barry from Watford is one of my favourite people ever.
I know, he's funny. He's funny.
I used to get onto Friends and stuff saying, quick, turn it on. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I find is good for my soul and my mental health? It's laughing.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I said, I absolutely love it. And I said at the start, you've got an infectious laugh. I love listening to your laugh when you're doing factoids or when you're doing, I don't know, who was born on this day and what.
Yeah.
And you just start laughing, and I laugh along, and I love laughing along with people laughing.
Yeah,
crazy.
I remember being when I was a kid, and I remember. It shows how old I am, but we used to go into like fun fairs, and they used to have those. It was a laughing policeman in a case.
Yes.
What the hell was that? And you used to put your money in. You used to and he would just like laugh hysterically. Oh, I just thought it was the best thing.
I remember them at Blackpool or something.
Yeah.
What a crazy thing.
I know, what a thing.
But good therapy. They should bring them back.
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely something to be said for having a good laugh. I love it. I really do. Oh, Janey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's been great fun.
I hope you found some benefit in talking. And if you want to talk some more, you've got my details. But I just hope you found benefit in it and you've had an all right time at least.
Yeah, no, it's been great. No, well done you. It's a really nice thing to do.
Well, I've noticed over the years that you like a chat, so I thought I'd ask. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
And to anyone listening out there, thank you again for listening to State of Mind. I'll get the kettle on for next time. In the meantime, I'm on Twitter at RichardSefton3. If you've been affected by anything that we've spoken about today, you can get in touch with Alcoholics Anonymous on 0800 9177 650 or 116 123 is the Samaritans. Incidentally, Mind are an amazing charity. If you Google them, you can find lots of useful and important information there. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.